we gather in the name of Jesus, His Spirit is moving among us. So stand and sing.
Or I can take most of the nursery for you. Come here, Jed, Bowie. Come here. Come on, go there. Go there.
I feel it in my bones, you're about to move. I feel it in the wind, you're about to ride in. You said that you would pour your spirit out. You said that you would follow sons and daughters. So like the rain comes precious love, let your glory rush in like a flood. We are fixed on this one thing, to know your goodness, see your glory.
sit down, go see Mr. Wayne in Hollis and get a cup of coffee. Take a lap around the room, see who's here. We'll be right back with you in just a second.
Get that sheep. Let's get it.
Children's Glow Children's Program fishing, and we had hot dogs, and where's Miss Brenda? Sorta did a boat race. The boats went about 6 inches, but we did do what might be called a boat race, and we had a really good time. Our children's program has really grown over the last year, and we want to have a big shout out to all the people who help in that program. If you have a child or a grandchild or just a child that you know that's not in church, please invite them to come out on Wednesdays. It's really turned into a really fun and exciting program, and we had a really good time yesterday. As far as programming for the church, next Saturday is Feed the Need. I think this is probably the 4th or 5th or 6th time that we've done this. We're asking people to make desserts, individually bagged desserts. There's a sign-up sheet over by those sodas. You can sign up, and we need you to bring those Friday 9 to 12 to the office, or at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, the day of the event. If you can come help at 9 next Saturday, please come out. I promise it's something you're going to get more out of than you put in. So if you can help with that, please show up to Feed the Need Saturday week. Most of your other announcements are found in your bulletin. We have an egg hunt coming up for Easter. We'll have Easter events. We're going to start promoting those here pretty quick. We're going to watch a video. After the video, the offering is going to come around. Buckets and baskets are what will come by you. Buckets are for missions, and your regular offering to the church or tithe can be given through, put in the basket or given through Venmo, and the address is on the screen. As the Easter season comes up, if you read anything about churches and unchurched people, most people, the best opportunity you have to invite them to church is over the Easter season. So keep that in mind as you watch this video about inviting people to church, and make that your goal over the Easter season to invite somebody.
I'll be inside in a minute. I want to say hey to Joe. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Mike.
Flower beds are looking good, neighbor.
Yep. You guys just get back from church?
Yeah. Just met at the church house.
I wonder why he never invites me to church. I mean, I go if he asks me to go, but this is the way it is. I'm out in my front yard when he comes home from church. It's always so awkward.
It's so awkward, and I'm so hungry. Ugh. I think my wife made goulash, and I love goulash. Oh, maybe Joe would like some goulash for lunch. Hey, Joe.
Here comes the invitation to church.
Yeah? You want to come over for
Sure, I'd love to go to
goulash?
church with you.
What'd you just say?
What'd you just say?
No, what?
No, what'd you say? What'd
No,
you
what
say?
did you say?
You said something about God. God.
Goo. Goulash.
Goulash?
Goulash. It's a...
You're having goulash at your church?
No, at my house.
You're inviting me over for goulash?
Yeah.
At your goulash? Yeah, who doesn't like goulash? I like some goulash. Yeah, sign me up. Goulash.
I'll check and make sure we have enough.
I see you walking away.
His unfailing love. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken.
be seated, thank you.
Good morning, all you beautiful people.
Good morning.
I bring out my Bible. My iPads are all dead because the chargers are Atlanta, and when I got ready to print out just the one or two verses I needed, the computer decided to upgrade. And it upgraded all the way up until about 10 minutes before I wanted to walk out the door. So I broke out this old thing called a book. I don't know if you recognize them, but I encourage you to get something like this. It's got everything you need. It will tell you exactly who you are. It will tell you what you need. It will tell you where you've come from and where it would like for you to go. And believe it or not, this book has been around for a very, very, very long time, and people still find it useful. I am told that those who are intelligent and atheists read it as well. In fact, I'm told that atheists tend to read this book more than we do. So think about that, because it's useful. And I found out that when countries stop using the textbook as a book as a textbook, they start to run into trouble. Now, I'm not saying you have to force down people's throats, but I'm saying it's an extremely good textbook. And if you use it, it can help you with a lot of the moral problems in your country. In South Africa, we started running into some extremely big problems when we stopped using this textbook in our schools. We didn't say people had to become a Christian to use it, but we did have something called religious instruction, and we had Mormons learn from it, we had Seventh-day Adventists learn from it, and some went to the classes, some didn't. We had schools that were actually specially designed for Muslims, and they didn't use this, they used something called the Quran. And we had some Jewish schools, but for the most part we read this. But now, in all fairness, I went to a country that was segregated. But with that said, good and bad, this is a book that's steered me well in the lessons of life. And today, the story we're going to read is actually part of what people learn in psychology. It's been around for years, and it happens all the time. And in fact, it's sometimes the most dreadful part of life. In fact, it's such a popular topic that you'll actually find it in movies. And that's a thing of failure to launch. You know, we all like to date. Dating's good. Boy or girls, kissy kissy, cushy cushy true, you know, all that stuff. And then there's marriage. And then there's children and babies and food. And then they grow up. And all of a sudden when they get grown, you think terrible twos is bad. I've got some bad news for you. There's something called a teenager. Some of you met them. And they know everything. In fact, some of my teenagers know so much, I was going to call NASA and tell NASA, hey, come get this kid. He knows more than me. Knows more than you. And when I try to tell them stuff I don't know, they tell me they know more than that. You better get this kid. This kid knows everything I don't know as well. That's a story about somebody in the Bible. It's nothing new. It's just called the story of the prodigal son, or as I like to talk about now, the forgiving father. It seems like when you're the son, it's the prodigal son, and when you become old and gray and bald and fat and kind of worn out, you become the forgiving father. And I'm going to say, you know, I love my son and I love my daughter who's now starting to go into this period. But there have been days I'd like to put it into a fish barrel with a hole about that big, kind of feed it once a day, plug that hole back up, and wish that I don't have to see them until the next time I feed them. They can get mean and ugly. And so that's what the story is about today. And if you haven't experienced that, I'll hook you up. Just because. So the story is about a prodigal son. It's about a father and two sons and some servants. And the son is obviously reached that point in his age that he comes to his father And he says to the father, "Hey, Dad, I think you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. I know you have a house and you have a car and it's paid for, and you got some money and you can provide food for me, and you can provide even a job for me, and you can put the clothes on my back, and you give me every single thing I need, but I still think you're an idiot. And Mom too, because you know what, I'm smarter than you, so I want you to give me my share of our inheritance, and I'm going to show you how to make some real money. I'm going to go off on my own, and I'm going to show you I know more about life than you do." And obviously, that can be hurtful. In modern America, that might be something to the, you know, Dad, that's out for me to move out. I want to go to Atlanta and get me an apartment and make minimum wage and pay for all my rent and my housing and my electricity and my car and my insurance and my iPhone and my iPad and my internet and all my entertainment on $50 an hour. But it doesn't add up. I know more than you. Don't tell me about math, because. And so the father, in all his love, you know, there's that thing is, when do you argue with somebody, or when do you make it a teachable moment? How much, you know, are you going to invest in that? You know, it's like a kid wants to go to college, and you know, it's hard work, and you know, it's going to cost $25,000, and you know, we're going to have to take out a loan, and somebody's going to have to pay that loan back. It's not free money. And then they go off to college, and you know, classes are boring, but you know, soccer and the parties and the bars and the dancing and the fraternities are a lot more fun. And then after about 6 months, they send home and come try 2 more years because your grades are F's, E's, and Z's. So it's that kind of thinking in American, maybe European thinking. So he goes off and he has a good time. He parties like there's no mañana. And he has lots of friends. I know about lots of friends. I was in Bible college. You think people would be nice and Christian in a Bible college? And I'd study for my Bible test the next morning. I'd go up and get me some of the best Italian pizza, because you need carbs when you study. And I'd get me 2 meat eaters, you know, as much meat as you could put on that thing. Thick crust, I don't like skinny crust. And I'd be eating there, and when I looked again, I'd have 20, 30 boys in there. And they're all my friends. And then the pizza doesn't appear, and guess what? My little dorm room got empty in about 10 seconds flat. But you know, if I ever had to change the tire, you know, those guys that had my back, and now they would have something else to do. And you learn out pretty quickly who your real friends are. Obviously, this kid didn't, because he knew better. You know, those people just know better every single time. I have no friends, but you know, they get a DUI, and it wasn't my fault, it was a dumb cop. Get another DUI, and it wasn't that my fault, it was that cop, you know. They get a DUI and then a weapons charge, because it wasn't my fault, it's that cop. He found the weapon. He shouldn't have found the weapon. He should leave me alone. You get these people that just never take responsibility. And he was one of these kids. And lo and behold, government changed hands, and there was a famine in the land, and the price of everything went up, and inflation went up, and he couldn't find a job anywhere. And so finally he got a job as a swine herder. He took care of hogs. Now, I know in Georgia, if you've been around long enough and you've been in Camilla, you've been around hogs. Anybody here been around hogs and a hog pen? Them bad boys stink. I don't care how much concrete you got there, but them hogs like that mud, and it can get pretty nasty quickly. I've been around hogs in South Africa, and it's not fun. And you know, how many of you showed hogs in FAA or 4-H or, okay, that's even worse. You gotta shave them and clean them and polish them, and you know, hogs to me were big fat old things, you know, but today they kind of put muscle on them and they look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, with muscles and all that. They still die from heart attacks if you scare them. So I know about hogs. And I promise you, I've looked at hog food. You like hog food? I don't. I like fried chicken. I don't like my hog food. And this kid was looking after these hogs. Now, in Jewish community, that's a dirty animal. And I can't think of a dirty animal in Georgia, maybe hogs or something as dirty as that. Something that you just devour more than anything, because, you know, in Georgia, we like pig. You know, we like it deep fried, and pork chops, and barbecue. So we don't have a problem with eating a pig now, nor do I. But these people did. And they hated pork, and they hated, if you touch pork, they wouldn't touch you and talk to you for weeks on end. And this kid grew up like that. But not only did he have to take care of these pigs and sleep with them, their food started to look good to him. So I don't know what he was eating, but it definitely wasn't good. Hard-headed, reached his bottom. AA talks about like this, you know, before somebody can get into recovery from AA, they have to reach their bottom. They have to be sleeping in the gutter somewhere, or homeless, or in some kind of den where there is no relief, and there's puke and needles and just nastiness everywhere, and fleas and lice. You have to get to that point in your life where you're at your rock bottom. And that's where you got. Here's my favorite verse in the Bible. Luke's Gospel, chapter 15, verse 17. Listen carefully. When he came to his senses, when he came to his senses, something finally clicked in a hard-headed kid's brain. Something came to his senses. And I don't know what gets people to get to that. If I had the magic formula for that, I'd be a rich man. I wouldn't be a preacher. There are many people that sit in church and they never come to their senses. There are many people that go to court and they never come to their senses. There are many people sitting in prison and they never come to their senses. I've sat in Kairos, and this guy had done 25 years off and on, and he talked about how he robbed this place and how he robbed that place and how he did armed robbery there, and he was just bragging away. And I said, fella, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you suck as a thief. You get caught all the time. You might want to change your profession. And he was like, never thought of it like that. He came to his senses. And I know that that's hard for many teenagers to do, because they don't want their parents' faith. They don't want to see Jesus the way their mom and dad see Jesus. But something happened. And they decided, I'm going to go back to my family, and I'm going to say, I'm not even worthy of being called your son or your daughter. Just give me an opportunity to live a halfway decent life. Could you just give me a break? You can hear the need for grace. I've been there. I've been that hard-headed kid. I don't know about you. And so as he gets up to go to his family. Some of the translations read it as his dad already knew. His dad already knew and was waiting for him. It wasn't like he was sitting at home. He was already in the streets waiting for that moment he came to his senses. I had a Nigerian friend who was a Black Baptist denomination preacher. He had about 9 kids, and he had this one boy that just wouldn't do anything and became a drug addict. And finally one day he found his son in the street because he'd go looking for him when he had time. And his son came to his senses, and he cleaned him up and he took him home, not as a servant, but his son. And get this now, he had a celebration for this boy. He put a fancy ring on his feet, he bought him some real nice shoes and some nice clothes, and put a nice jacket on him, and invited the whole neighborhood. And he started to brag. He said, "This was my son. He was lost. Now he's found. He's got much to come back." Until you've lost a child to craziness and you get them back, you have no idea what that feels like. And that's how I think God feels about us when we come back to Him. He is so happy. But then, there was another son. And he doesn't care for this. He'd been the good boy, you know. He'd worked for Dad. He'd been faithful to his dad. He'd done all the work, and his son had every night. He'd never torn up the business, never had a car accident, never got drunk in his life. He came to his dad and says, "You got this idiot. You're throwing a party for him." And yeah, I am. I've been faithful all your life, but you've done nothing for me. Life wasn't fair. Dad says, "You don't get it. Everything I have is already yours." He's wasted his inheritance. But he was lost, and now he's found. He says, "You have everything. You're missing the point." And sometimes I think that reminds us of us in the church that, we get a little bit of religion under the belt. We come to church for a while and we clean up pretty good, and we stay clean sort of like kind of way. Nobody really knows what our hidden sins are, and we kind of look somewhat respectable, and we pass a nice big old Bible and get dressed up when we come to church, and we're looking good. So we start to look down at those other people that are just starting where we had started somewhere else. And that's what I think sometimes we are, like the older son. Sometimes we are that person that, just thinks we've got it together. We look down at the people that are hurting and broken. Maybe that's what it is. But then there's the group of people that we miss. The servants. Nobody ever talks about the servants. Have you ever wondered why that son got like he did? Did he think that up all on his own? He might have, but I have a theory. There's always those people in the churches and in your friendship groups that is always starting something up. Like, you know what? You know why your dad let him back in? It's because he's a favorite, not you. You know why the preacher's doing that stuff? He's got some hidden sin in his life. They go back and they're starting stuff up. They're drama queens, I think they're sometimes called, or gossips. And so sometimes we forget that gossiping, or the person behind the scenes that thinks that know everything about what's going on is what's good for us. So that's where I am now. My stomach's really torn up. So I'm going to end this gap. I want the worship group that I might be like that. So all of us one day might be the forgiving Father. We will be there one day. All of us might already have been the prodigal son. And we get that, or the prodigal daughter. We don't want to be, or the prodigal period. And then sometimes we're that unforgiving son, we're the judgmental one that thinks we got it all together, and we start to judge other people because they're not quite like what we think a Christian should be. And then sometimes, I hate to say it, we're that person that starts the gossip that causes the problems in our community, in our family, in our church. Let us pray that we come to our senses and be the forgiving, kind people that God calls us to be. Let us pray. Almighty God, help us to come to our senses on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, and help us take it one step at a time as we grow closer with you. Amen.
Thank you again for joining us for worship this morning. Please stand and we'll close out the service. You're never gonna let
Oh yeah, and a little bit of ice and some peppermint can really fix you up. So, I was going to share with this, and I wasn't sure. How many of you heard the story about Pedro? Pedro, he had a son, and he had a falling out with his son. And after many, many years of this animosity and separation, he decided that he would try and reconcile with his son. So he said what he might do is he put an advert in a newspaper. And what he would do is say, you know, Pedro, my son, I forgive you. If you forgive me, would you be in the marketplace in Laredo at 12 o'clock Saturday morning, and we can then renew our friendship? And so he did that. And so Saturday morning in Laredo, he went down to the market square to see his son Pedro. And to his surprise, there were 3,000 Pedroses waiting to be reconciled with their father. We talk about inviting people and having them come back to their senses to find the love of God. And there are many people like that I can't reach. There's no newspaper that will do it. If you know these people, and I encourage you to invite them to this church, because it's built on love and grace. And I bet you they will find a reconciliation with their God. Go in that knowledge and love. Amen.
Lord, I